Most people will spend their entire lives feeling like they were made for something greater, and die never having done anything about it. That is not going to be you. Not after today. Because what you're carrying isn't confusion, it isn't ambition, and it definitely isn't arrogance. It is a divine signal that was placed inside you before you had a single word to describe it. And here's the part that might make you uncomfortable: God has already been waiting. Not for the perfect moment. Not for the fear to go away. Not for the plan to be complete. He has been waiting for you to say yes to what He put inside you before you were born. Here's the paradox that nobody talks about: the chosen ones are often the last ones to believe they are chosen. The person sitting on the outside of their own calling, watching everyone else live smaller versions of their lives and wondering why the feeling won't leave them alone. You've tried to silence it. You've tried to outgrow it. You've tried to fill the space with achievement, with busyness, with settling, and it came back every single time, unchanged and patient, because it was never coming from you. It was placed in you. And what God places in a person, distraction cannot destroy and time cannot expire. This video is not about motivation. Motivation fades by Thursday. This is about something deeper, the practical, step-by-step movement of a chosen one from feeling the calling to actually walking in it. By the time this is over, you will know what the feeling means, how to tell the difference between a calling and restlessness, why you haven't stepped into it yet, and exactly what to do about it starting today. No vague inspiration. No empty encouragement. Real clarity for real people who are done waiting for a life that was always supposed to be theirs. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now and tell me, how long have you been carrying this feeling? 1 year? 10 years? Your whole life? Let me see it below, because I want to know who's in this room. And if you're watching this and something inside you already knows this message was meant for you, hit that like button and subscribe, because what's coming in this channel is built for exactly the person you're becoming. There's a feeling that some people carry their entire lives, quiet, persistent, and impossible to explain to anyone who hasn't felt it. It's not ambition. Ambition chases titles, applause, and the next thing on the list. This feeling is different. It doesn't want more, it wants something specific, something that has nothing to do with how others see you and everything to do with who you were made to be. The chosen ones who carry this feeling know exactly what it's like to sit in a room full of everything they worked for and still sense that something greater is waiting. Not because they're ungrateful, but because gratitude and calling can coexist in the same chest without contradiction. What makes this feeling so hard to dismiss is that it doesn't disappear when life gets good. A chosen one can have a loving family, a stable career, genuine peace, and still feel the pull of a divine purpose that hasn't been fully stepped into yet. That's not a sign something is wrong. That's a sign something real is calling. David was anointed king years before he ever sat on a throne. Esther was positioned for a moment she didn't know was coming. Jeremiah was told his calling was set before he was even born, before he had done a single thing to earn or explain it. The circumstances hadn't confirmed the calling yet, but the calling was already real. That's the nature of God's plan, it exists before the evidence does. Here's what most people get wrong about this feeling: they treat it like a symptom of dissatisfaction, like something to fix or outgrow. But the feeling isn't a problem, it's a compass. And a compass doesn't create the destination. It points to something that already exists. When a chosen one feels born for something greater, that isn't wishful thinking building a fantasy. That is God's way of keeping someone oriented toward an assignment that hasn't fully manifested yet. The feeling is a signal, not a malfunction. And like any signal, the question was never whether it was real, the question is whether you're paying attention to where it's pointing. What's interesting is that this feeling tends to get louder the more someone tries to silence it. Busyness doesn't kill it. Achievement doesn't replace it. Even settling, building a life around a version of yourself that was never the full version, doesn't make it go away. It just goes quiet for a season, patient and unhurried, waiting for the noise to stop. And when the noise stops, in the stillness, in the honest moments, in the space between what life looks like and what it was supposed to be, the feeling comes back. Clearer. More specific. More urgent. That kind of persistence is not a coincidence. That is a spiritual awakening knocking on the door of someone who was destined to answer it. So if you've been carrying this feeling, if you've tried to explain it and couldn't, tried to ignore it and failed, tried to outgrow it and found it still there, maybe the question isn't what's wrong with you. Maybe the question is what's been right about you all along, waiting to be claimed. The compass has been pointing somewhere this entire time. And somewhere ahead in this conversation, the real question is going to surface, not just what the feeling is, but how you know for certain that it's a calling and not just restlessness. There's a difference between a person who wants more and a person who was made for more, and that difference shows up in the details. The first sign that what someone carries is a genuine calling and not just restlessness is simple: it has been there since childhood. Not as a fully formed vision with a title and a plan, but as a persistent sense of difference. A quiet knowing that something was waiting that couldn't be named but couldn't be ignored either. Most chosen ones look back at their earliest memories and find it there, that feeling of being slightly out of place in ordinary life, not because something was wrong with them, but because they were carrying something that ordinary life wasn't big enough to hold. That's not nostalgia. That's evidence. The second sign is one that takes courage to admit: the feeling has survived every single attempt to silence it. And most chosen ones have tried. They've tried busyness, filling every hour so there's no room left to hear it. They've tried achievement, collecting accomplishments like proof that they've already arrived somewhere. They've tried distraction, settling, and even convincing themselves that the feeling was arrogance dressed up as divine purpose. And every time, without fail, it came back. Unchanged. Patient. Insistent. A calling that survives that kind of pressure isn't coming from a person's ego or imagination. Something that endures rejection, failure, years of silence, and still returns, that was never coming from you. That was placed in you. Then there are the gifts, and this is where it gets undeniable. A calling is almost always connected to specific abilities that feel effortless and significant at the same time. These are the things a chosen one does that make time disappear, that produce something in other people that couldn't have been manufactured on purpose. A teacher who walks into a room and changes the atmosphere without trying. A writer whose words reach someone in a moment that couldn't have been planned. A leader whose presence alone rearranges what people believe is possible. If someone has ever looked at you doing something and said you were made for this, pay attention to that. God's plan rarely hides itself completely. It tends to leak out through the gifts before the person even knows what to do with them. One of the clearest signs of a true calling is what happens in stillness. When the noise stops, when the calendar clears, when the distractions fall away, when it's just a person alone with themselves, a calling gets louder, not quieter. Restlessness fades in silence. A calling sharpens. It becomes more specific, more urgent, more impossible to dismiss. And alongside that clarity comes something that doesn't get talked about enough: a specific grief. Not depression, not general sadness, but a particular ache that shows up when someone imagines reaching the end of their life having never fully stepped into what the feeling was pointing at. That grief is not weakness. That grief is wisdom. It's the soul already mourning a future it doesn't want to accept. Here's the thing that should settle it for anyone still wondering whether what they carry is real: a calling has a track record. It has survived things that should have killed it: failure, betrayal, years of silence, slow accumulation of evidence that maybe it wasn't real after all. And it is still here. Right now, in the person reading this, it is still here. Spiritual awakening doesn't happen to people who were never destined for it. The fact that this feeling followed you through everything, that it is still present after all of it, is not a coincidence. It's confirmation. And once someone accepts that the calling is real, the next question becomes the harder one: if it's real, and it's been real this whole time, why haven't you stepped into it yet? This is the question that most people avoid because the honest answer is uncomfortable. If the calling is real, and it is, then the years spent not walking in it require an explanation. And the first explanation is the most common one: the path isn't clear. A chosen one can feel the divine purpose with absolute certainty and still have no idea what it looks like on a Tuesday morning in the life they're already living. The feeling is vivid. The direction is blurry. And the mind, trying to protect the person from the pain of moving towards something uncertain, does something cruel. It interprets the absence of a clear map as evidence that the destination isn't real. But that's not logic. That's fear wearing the costume of reason. The destination doesn't need a visible road to exist. It needs someone willing to take the first step without seeing the whole path. Then there's the gap, and for most chosen ones, the gap is what stops everything. The distance between where they are right now and where the feeling points can look so enormous that the mind concludes the journey is impossible before it begins. Think about someone who feels called to build something significant but is currently buried in debt, working a job that has nothing to do with the calling, with no obvious resources and no one around them who understands what they carry. The gap looks like proof that the calling isn't meant for them. But here's what's actually true: the gap is not evidence that the destination is wrong. The gap is evidence that the journey is required. Every person who ever walked into their God's plan had to cross a gap that looked impossible from the starting line. The gap is part of the assignment, not an argument against it. But perhaps the deepest reason chosen ones don't step into their calling is this: they are waiting for permission. Permission from family who doesn't understand the vision. Permission from a past full of failures that seems to disqualify them. Permission from a version of themselves that doesn't yet feel worthy enough, ready enough, healed enough. And here's the truth that needs to be said plainly: the permission was given before the person was born. It has not been revoked. It will not be revoked. Jeremiah didn't apply for his calling. Esther didn't earn her positioning. David didn't campaign for the anointing. The calling was extended before any of them had done a single thing to deserve it, and the same is true for every chosen one carrying this feeling right now. Waiting for permission that was already granted is just another name for standing still. There's a pattern worth naming, and almost every person who has ever stepped into something greater recognizes it in themselves when they look back. For years, they tried to figure the calling out before following it. They analyzed it, mapped it, researched it, prayed about it, journaled about it, talked about it with people who couldn't fully see it, and none of it produced movement. Because a calling was never designed to be understood before it is obeyed. It is designed to be followed one step at a time, and the understanding comes through the movement, not before it. The clarity that a chosen one is waiting for while standing still is only available on the other side of the first step. It cannot be thought into existence. It has to be walked into. Here's the one that hits hardest, because it sounds so responsible: fear has been wearing the costume of wisdom. What sounds like patience is sometimes paralysis. What sounds like preparation is sometimes procrastination. What sounds like prudence is sometimes just a well-dressed refusal to be vulnerable enough to try. Someone once carried their calling for 20 years of explaining to themselves why the timing wasn't right, why the conditions weren't perfect, why they needed just a little more before they could begin. And then one day, without everything in place, without the full plan, without the fear being resolved first, they took one step in the direction the feeling had always been pointing. And that single step revealed a path that 20 years of standing still never could have shown them. The path doesn't appear before the step. It appears because of it. There's a moment that comes in every chosen one's life when the question shifts. It stops being "is this real?" and starts being "what am I supposed to do with it?" And the first answer is the one most people resist because it sounds too simple: stop treating the feeling like a problem to be solved and start treating it like a direction to be followed. The feeling was never a question mark waiting for an explanation. It was always an arrow. And the only productive response to an arrow is to move in the direction it's pointing. Not to analyze why the arrow exists. Not to wait until the arrow makes sense to everyone around you. Not to study the arrow until the fear goes away. The next faithful step in the direction of the divine purpose, that is what God's plan has been waiting for all along. The second thing, and this one is more powerful than it sounds, is to name it out loud. There is something that happens in the spirit of a chosen one when they speak the calling into the open air for the first time. something shifts. Something gets claimed. Most people who have carried this feeling for years have never fully said it out loud, not because they don't believe it, but because saying it out loud makes it real enough to be accountable to. Saying I was born for something greater is not arrogance. It is the first act of stewardship over something God placed inside you. A calling spoken out loud stops being a private feeling and starts becoming a declaration. And declarations have a way of rearranging the world around the person who makes them. Then comes the step, and it has to be the smallest possible one, because that's the one that's actually available. Not the whole plan. Not the full vision. Not the version that requires everything to be in place, every resource secured, every doubt resolved. The one step that exists inside the life a chosen one is already living right now. Someone who feels called to teach doesn't need a platform with 1 million followers, they need to say yes to the one conversation in front of them where their insight could change someone's direction. Someone who feels called to build doesn't need the full funding, they need to spend the next 60 minutes working on the thing they've been postponing. The step of faith is rarely dramatic at first. But it is always the thing that makes everything else possible. One of the most liberating things a chosen one can accept is this: the calling was given to you, not to the people around you. Which means their inability to see it is not a verdict on its reality. A spouse who doesn't fully understand it, a parent who thinks it's unrealistic, a friend who responds with silence when you share the vision, none of that is a verdict. It is simply a reminder that not everyone was meant to see what you carry before it manifests. Joseph's brothers couldn't see the destiny when they threw him in the pit. They saw it clearly when they bowed before him in Egypt. The spiritual awakening of the people around a chosen one often comes after the chosen one has already been faithful to what they were destined to carry. Don't wait for the room to understand. Move, and let the room catch up. The last thing, the one that ties everything together, is to bring the feeling fully to God. Not to ask whether it's real. Not to beg for a sign that hasn't come yet. But to ask one specific, faithful question: what is the next movement that honesty and obedience require of me? The feeling came from him. He is not confused about what it means or where it leads. Someone once stopped waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect confirmation, the perfect conditions, and took one imperfect step in the direction of everything the feeling had ever pointed at. And that step produced more clarity, more confirmation and more momentum than years of waiting and analyzing ever had. The breakthrough was never behind the perfect plan. It was always behind the first real yes. And what's left now is the most practical question of all: what does that yes actually look like, starting today? Everything that has been set up to this point means nothing without this: a decision made today, in the life that already exists, with the resources already available. The first and most important thing a chosen one can do right now is write the feeling down, not the plan, not the how, not the version that requires everything to be figured out first. Just the what. What does the greater thing feel like? What does it look like when it's fully alive in the world? What does it produce in other people? Getting it out of the head and onto paper is not a small act. It is the moment the calling stops living exclusively inside the person and starts existing somewhere the person can return to, refine, and be held accountable by. A calling that stays only in the mind is a feeling. A calling that gets written down starts becoming a vision. The second thing is to identify the one thing that has been postponed. Not the whole journey, just the one next thing that the feeling has been pointing at and the person has been avoiding. Most chosen ones already know what it is. It's the thing that comes to mind immediately when the question is asked, the thing that gets dismissed a half second later with a reason that sounds responsible but feels like fear. Maybe it's a conversation that needs to happen. Maybe it's an application that needs to be submitted. Maybe it's a project that has been sitting untouched for months because starting it would make the calling real enough to fail at. Whatever it is, that is the step of faith that is available right now, today, in the life that already exists. And the only way forward is through it. Here's one that requires honesty: something has to go. Chosen ones who feel born for something greater are often exhausted, not because they're lazy, but because they're spending their best energy on commitments that were never part of God's plan for their lives. A yes to everything is a no to the calling. So the question becomes, what is one thing currently consuming the time, energy, or attention that the divine purpose actually needs? It might be a commitment that felt noble when it started but has become a distraction. It might be a relationship that drains without restoring. It might be a habit that fills the hours that were meant for the assignment. Removing one thing that doesn't belong is not selfishness. It is stewardship. It is making room for what was always supposed to be there. Then find one person, just one, who is already living in the direction the feeling points. Not to copy them. Not to compare timelines or feel behind. But to prove to the part of the mind that still doubts that the direction is a real place where real people actually go. There's a reason faith grows in the presence of evidence. Reading about someone who left a stable career to walk fully into their calling and built something that mattered, someone like John Maxwell, who started with a small congregation and became one of the most influential leadership voices in the world, does something to the internal narrative of a chosen one who has been told the vision is unrealistic. Find the person who proves the path exists. Let their story do what evidence is supposed to do, make the destination undeniable. And then, before the conditions are right, before the plan is complete, before the fear has been fully resolved, say yes. Out loud. To the feeling, to the calling, to the version of yourself that has been waiting on the other side of the first real step. Speak over it. Declare it. I was born for something greater. I am a chosen one. My divine purpose is real, it is waiting, and starting today I am moving toward it. This is not performance. This is not pretending the fear isn't there. This is a chosen one deciding that the calling is more trustworthy than the doubt, that God's plan is more reliable than the excuses, and that the life waiting on the other side of obedience is worth every uncomfortable, uncertain, imperfect step it takes to get there. The yes comes first. Everything else follows the yes. Everything you've heard in this video was already true before you pressed play. The calling was real before you could name it. The divine purpose was set before you had done anything to earn it or explain it. And the feeling that has followed you through every season of your life, through the achievements and the failures, through the noise and the silence, through every attempt to outgrow it or silence it, that feeling was never a coincidence. It was a compass. And a compass only has one job, to point towards something real that is waiting to be found. So here's the question that only you can answer, and it deserves an honest response, not a comfortable one. How much longer are you going to wait? How many more years are you going to spend standing at the edge of the life that was built for you, analyzing the gap instead of crossing it, waiting for permission that was granted before you were born, waiting for conditions that were never going to be perfect, waiting for a version of yourself that only exists on the other side of the first step? The chosen ones who changed history were not the ones who had everything figured out. They were the ones who moved first and trusted that the path would appear because of the movement, not before it. The step of faith that changes everything is rarely the dramatic one. It's the one taken today, in the ordinary life that already exists, with the imperfect resources already available. Write the feeling down. Name the one thing that has been postponed. Remove what doesn't belong. Find the person who proves the path is real. And say yes, out loud, before the fear is resolved, before the plan is complete, before anyone else understands what you're doing or why. Say yes to the calling. Say yes to God's plan. Say yes to the version of yourself that has been waiting, patient and certain, on the other side of your obedience. Because here's what nobody tells the chosen ones: the breakthrough was never behind the perfect moment. It was always behind the first real movement. And the person you are going to become by walking fully into the divine purpose you were born to carry is not someone you need to build from scratch. That person already exists. They have always existed. They were there before the doubt, before the delay, before the years of waiting. All that's left is the decision to stop living beneath what you were made for and start stepping into it, one faithful, imperfect, courageous step at a time. So let me ask you one more thing before you go, and I want you to answer this in the comments, because your answer matters. What is the one step you have been postponing that you are going to take this week? Not someday. Not when the time is right. This week. Write it down below. Say it out loud. Make it real. Because the chosen ones who are watching this video right now are not here by accident, and neither are you. This is your moment. The feeling was always real. The calling was always yours. And the life waiting on the other side of your yes is greater than anything fear ever promised you if you stayed still. If this message reached something inside you today, if something shifted, if something woke up, if something that had been quiet for a long time got loud again, then do one more thing before you leave: subscribe to this channel and turn on the notifications. Because this is only the beginning. What's coming next is built for exactly who you're becoming, and you don't want to miss a single step of it.